Cleveland Browns versus Tennessee Titans reaction video. Look, my Browns-Titans instant reaction is that this was a tale of really probably two halves. Now, let me say this. I have comments and I have some concerns for both teams. Let me just start with the Cleveland Browns. I picked against the Cleveland Browns this week. I thought that the Titans were going to cover that 5.5-point spread, primarily because I thought the Titans were going to be able to pass the ball a little bit more and do a little bit better job of running the ball. So let me just say this. I was wrong. Browns fans, comment below. You can let me have it. I'm all good with that. It was very, very impressive. Very impressive. And you could see kind of early what was going on as the Tennessee Titans, I think, were looking to really slow down the run game. And and they even mentioned this in the broadcast too. Stefanski felt like they liked the passing concepts this week. You could see that the Cleveland Browns embraced Baker Mayfield being a passer. If you watch my either one of my kind of tune-up games for this, my co-hosts tend to not like Baker Mayfield as much, certainly not as much as Browns fans do. I like him a little bit more, but certainly I don't like him as much as Browns fans do. I'm somewhere right in the middle there. Let me say this. I've been giving compliments to Phillip Rivers in what he's been doing in the second half of the season with the new coaching staff. What Baker Mayfield's been doing in the second half, with this coaching staff is good. As they mentioned in the broadcast, the Cleveland Browns have had multiple awful weather games, and they do have, in my opinion, two of the best running backs in football. Nick Chubb, by the way, let me look at the stats here for the Cleveland Browns. Nick Chubb only got 18 carries for 80 yards, one touchdown, 4.4 yards per carry, which for basically 30 other running backs in the league is a pretty decent yards per carry average. For Nick Chubb, that's about 1.5 yards low, which is why I love Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt goes 14 to 33 for 2.4 yards per carry. What I'm trying to say here is the Tennessee Titans actually did a reasonable job limiting the Cleveland Browns running game. But when you look at what Baker Mayfield did in the first half, he had 4 touchdowns. He was about a half yard away at the end of the first half from having 5 touchdowns in the first half. 25 completions on 33 receptions. Just carved the Tennessee Titans defense up. I came in thinking, the Titans had a nice defensive effort against the Indianapolis Colts. Is that the sign? Was it the sign that they were going to finally be moving forward and playing as well as that defense was playing towards the end of last season? I got to say, the Cleveland Browns just dominated the Tennessee Titans in every phase. And let me say this too, because I know if you're a Titans fan, you're probably thinking like, oh, we played like garbage. And, I get a lot of comments from, fans of the team saying, you got to watch the games and so on and so forth. And I always make this point. I do watch probably 10 to 12 games live every week. I have multiple TVs set up. It's awesome. I love it. It's a great sports den. But I do watch the teams. And I'm going to give you an example. Last week when the Las Vegas Raiders just got manhandled by the Atlanta Falcons, I was watching that, and my observation based on all the games that I watch is like Las Vegas never got off the bus. It wasn't competitive. They kept making mistakes over and over and over again. They couldn't do anything right. It was Murphy's Law. The Tennessee Titans, yes, I know they had the fumble. By the way, one of those interceptions from Tannehill, Humphreys, within the red zone, hits him right in the freaking hands, pops up in the Cleveland Browns. I'm saying this with disdain because I had Tannehill in a very important fantasy week this week. But, Tannehill actually could have had better numbers. I'll get to him in a bit. But what I'm trying to make the point, that Atlanta versus Vegas, I thought Vegas just came out and blew it. Tennessee, I don't think they blew it. I think Cleveland earned this victory. So credit where credit's due. Now, I'm going to get to the schedule with Cleveland. I'm going to get to the schedule with Tennessee. I'm going to get to stats with Tennessee. So hang with me. Let me say this about Cleveland. This reminded me a lot of that Dallas game where they were blowing the doors off of Dallas. And then in the second half, Dak Prescott was still healthy then. Dallas went on that run, got that game close. Now, Tennessee gets a late touchdown there. You're like, yeah, it's a garbage touchdown. But remember what I just said about Tannehill. A ball popped off. They were in the red zone. A ball popped off the hands of somebody. That really should have been a touchdown. That could have been the game winner. That late touchdown there with that fumble where the Browns were trying to close out the game. A little bit of a sloppy finish. The Cleveland Browns defense needs to finish these out. That is a valid criticism, Cleveland. I know that all the fans, they want to worry about their team saying they went to prevent. You can't do that in the playoffs. You just can't do it. So the Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, I think this game would be a little bit lower scoring, a little bit kind of a closer matchup based in the first half. But Cleveland, my criticism of Cleveland, this reminded me of the Dallas game where they were blowing the doors off, dominating, and then let kind of a team get a little bit closer. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans, multiple weeks this year, I would say it's more the norm, more the rule rather than the exception, is that Tennessee starts slow and finishes strong in the second half. You could point to Pittsburgh. You can point to a handful of games in the first quarter of the season. Tennessee has to come out ready to go. So there you go. Let me talk about playoffs, though. I believe Tennessee. I believe Cleveland. Cleveland's a lock at this point. Cleveland's schedule, they still have a game against the Jets. They're going to win that game. They have a game against the Giants, although I think the Giants now are playing better. So I don't think that's as much of a gimme as it was the first part of the year. In fact, I think it's a trap game just based on what their record's going to be when they play. But the Browns next week, they host the Ravens. I personally believe the Ravens, just based on the more desperate team, I think the Ravens are going to win that game. But if the Browns win this game, I believe the Ravens could be knocked out of the playoffs. So keep an eye out on that. Let's see here. The Giants, I do think they'll win, but that's a trap game. Although, again, if the Browns end up losing to the Ravens, I think they're going to come back and be stronger mentally and win that game. Worst case, you go 1-1 in those games, in my opinion. That's the takeaway. Then they got the Jets. They're going to win that. So they go 2-1, and then they host the Steelers at the end of the year. We'll see what happens. I tend to think Pittsburgh's the better team there. We saw what happened in the first game. I think it'll be a little bit of a closer game, but Pittsburgh schematically was able to lock down what Cleveland wants to do. It'd be an interesting game to watch, but it's also possible the Steelers will be resting players there. Whatever happens moving forward, I believe the Browns win 2 games. Worst case scenario for the Browns, they finish 11-5. And with an 11-5, I believe worst case scenario, they finish with the 6th seed. I believe that they are in. The Tennessee Titans now are 8-4. The Indianapolis Colts won. They held serves. So they are tied in terms of record for the division lead. I don't have the tiebreakers in front of me. Next week, the Titans go on the road against the Jaguars. They will win that game. Then they play the Lions. They host them at home. They should win that game, but the Lions are always a Jekyll and Hyde team. You never know when the Lions are going to come out and score 40, but they should have 2 wins there. I do believe that they might lose to the Packers, but let me say this. I think they'll probably, worst case scenario with those NFC North opponents, I believe that the Lions and the Packers, they'll finish 1-1. If they lose to the Lions, I think they'll upset the Packers, and if they beat the Lions, I would think that the Packers will win. So I'm going to give them 2-1 in their next 3 games. Then at the end of the year, they go on the road to the Texans. I don't think that's a give-me game by any means, but I do think the Titans win there. So I think with the last 4 weeks of the season, I believe the Titans finish 3-1. I believe they are 11-5. They will be losing the tiebreaker, the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Cleveland Browns. So if those are indeed the wild card teams, and in fact, the Cleveland Browns on the tiebreaker over the Indianapolis Colts. So regardless, I'm actually going to give the Cleveland Browns at this point the number 5 seed. I believe either Tennessee or Indianapolis will be the 6th seed, and we're going to see what happens with the 7 seed, because that's going to go down to the Raiders, the Dolphins, and the Dolphins have a brutal stretch to end the year. Ravens, Dolphins, and Raiders. The Ravens have a nice schedule to end of the year, but like I said, that Cleveland Ravens game, that's going to be a big one for the playoff chase. Now let me look at the Titans stats here. At the end of the game, Tannehill went 29-45, 389 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Derrick Henry still gives you 15 carries, 60 yards, 4 yards per carry, but that's not what you need from Derrick Henry in this game. When Cleveland went up on that lead and it turned into a passing game, that is, by the way, why I like the Titans. I do think that if the Titans are losing, they have the passing attack to come back, which we saw. But the Titans like to be closing out games with Derrick Henry, not chasing people from behind with Ryan Tannehill. Corey Davis has a monster game, 11 catches on 12 targets, 182 for a touchdown. A.J. Brown gives you 4 receptions, 87 yards, no touchdowns. Anthony Ferkser, 5 catches and 51 yards. Pruitt gets in the end zone. McNichols gets in on the action. Tons of receivers on both teams catching balls. This was a fun game to watch, just because towards the end of the game, it wasn't so fun the first 3 quarters. But once the Titans started scoring a little bit more, it started to get a little bit more interesting. It was nice. Cleveland, I want to see you stepping on the throats of these teams when you're up by like 30 points. You can't do the Marty Schottenheimer thing, Cleveland. There's a nice little old school Cleveland reference. Can't do the Marty Ball thing and just hang on to the leads. Just keep grinding and keep scoring points and just keep giving the ball to Nick Chubb. Good things will happen. Really good. Very impressed for Baker Mayfield. This network has to eat its words. He played fantastic football. So Cleveland Browns, respect to you guys. Again, you can comment below. Tennessee Titans fans, what went wrong? What went wrong? Tell me what happened in that first half. Comment below. That is our reaction video for this game. We'll be doing more reactions this weekend. Please check us out. Please like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you again soon.